Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today what I want to go over is rescuing some tropical sage seedlings that are just coming up as volunteers in my garden. Tropical sage is a wonderful plant. It's a native Florida plant. It has very nice bright red flowers, so it's very showy, and it's a really nice butterfly attracting plant. I'm working with this plant because I'm working in Delano Wiggins Pass State Park, and as a state park, the plants that I'm allowed to grow are native, have to be native to that park. So I'm working with tropical sage, which is a member of the mint family. I should also mention that tropical sage is not the same as sage. I actually grow sage, and it's a wonderful plant. Regular sage makes a delicious butter sage pasta dish. This is tropical sage. It's the same genus but a different species. The plant itself is also fragrant, but you don't want to eat it. It's mostly grown because of the nice flowers and the butterfly attraction capabilities. It's also extremely drought tolerant, so it does very well in the sandy soils here under very dry conditions. So what I want to go over with you today is how to rescue these seedlings, grow them up, and then transplant them to the park, which I won't go over today. So the first thing I need to do is harvest seedlings. So I'm going to take my spade and go down here and harvest. Okay, back away. All right, so I've got my seedlings that I dug out of the ground here, and this is just really simple. You got to make sure when you dig these seedlings up that you have a little bit of the soil associated with that. So dig down deep as you saw, and these seedlings they're very good and they should be ready to grow. They're also extremely tolerant of dry conditions, so some of these guys you can even pull up by the roots and put in the soil. The soil that I use is, again, this stuff, which I think is great. So this is moisture controlled potting mix from Miracle-Gro, and this stuff is nice because it really retains the moisture. The other thing that I like about this soil is that when I'm planting plants in the park and in some of the sandy soils that we have around here, those soils tend to dry out. So this provides that if you plant the plants from in the soil, it provides a little bit of moisture protection. It's a little bit of a buffer from the dry soil that we can have here for most parts of the year. So my survival rates when I use this good soil is much higher, and you want to have that because you don't want to go through the effort of planting these plants and then having them die on you. So let's go ahead and do this, and this is very simple to do. So I normally put a couple of plants like this, just kind of drop them down in the pot and just kind of work them into the soil. So I'll take a second one here, and it's as simple as this. Just put them down in the soil. The other thing that you want to remember about this is give them a good drink of water. It's moisture control, but you got to make sure you get the moisture in there. So they got a good drink of water. The water's dripping out. Again, you don't have to worry about overwatering the soil. It's light enough so that it'll drain out. It retains the water. This is good stuff. So that's pretty much all there is to it. Let me do a second pot here. And it's just the same thing. Again, I'm taking my plant that I dug out, squeeze it down in the soil and push around it. Take another plant right here, push it down in the soil. You know, it really is best to have the root ball around the transplanted plants as intact as possible. You can see that there's some roots that are associated with this down here. Keep it as intact as possible, but these plants are really tolerant, and most plants are like this. They'll be okay if the roots are disrupted or if the roots are pulled up, as long as you water them thoroughly and get them into the soil. You don't want to have roots dry out too much. That just is that's not good. So this is all there is to it. Let me just show you what it looks like after a very short time, and also show you the benefits of this type of this soil. So here we go. So this is a plant that I transplanted about 2 weeks ago, and they were the same size as these plants. But when you put them in the good soil, there's fertilizer in here, there's good soil, there's moisture retention, and this is kind of an indicator of how the plants will grow if you pot them up into the good soil and take care of them carefully. Again, these were the same size. All these seedlings were coming up from at the same time. And again, these seedlings were from a plant that I was growing in my garden here. Tropical sage is one of those plants that'll produce a ton of seeds, and it can be a little bit aggressive. So if you have conditions that will promote it, you'll have more plants than you want. So here in my home garden where there's irrigation, these guys come up like crazy, and I actually have to pull them out and rescue them and take them to the park, or just pull them out. I'm sorry. But the plants can be they can be very aggressive, and you've got to make sure that it doesn't overseed itself. In the park, because the conditions are a little bit more severe, you don't have that, so you have occasional volunteer plants that come up. But it's not the same type of thing. If you want to actually, if you don't want to rescue the plants, if you want to harvest plants, and if you want to generate plants from seed harvesting from tropical sage and other members of the mint family, and I should mention basil. There's a lot of nice members of the mint family. I have some basil here, and it's all very similar. You can take the seeds from the old flowers, and you just kind of rub the seeds and the seed capsules, and the seeds will fall out. I usually do this over a white piece of paper. The seeds are very easy to collect. You can blow the dry material away, and the only thing, very carefully, and the only thing left will be the seeds themselves. And then you can take those seeds and sow them, and again, the same type of soil mix, and be careful when you do that. The seeds are pretty small, so you don't really need to bury them. All you need to do is kind of sprinkle them on top, and you give them water, and the water you give them will just kind of bury them deep enough so that you'll get very, very good germination. Here's a pot of basil that I grew from seed that I harvested from one of my plants. And you can do this. You can harvest seed from certain plants, and they'll be true to type. So this basil is going to be true to type. Some plants aren't like that. Some hybrids you can't do that with. I don't want to go over that today. But these are going to be true to type. These are, and also what happens generally with seed, when you harvest them yourself, you have so many of them, you plant a little bit too thick, and you're going to have to thin these out. When you thin them out, you can do the same type of thing. You can pull them out, rescue them, put them in new pots, and have really more basil and more tropical sage. Then you know what to do with. So that's all I have today. I wish you success and happy propagating.